And now a few words from our sponsors. Thank you.
We are also brought to you by Iron Palm Coffee, located at exit 82 right off I-55 for Auburn and Pawnee. This is a very special guy to me. This is my buddy John Drake Camp, one of my best friends. He's had this vision of having this coffee spot for years. It's finally, come to fruition, and he's slanging some of the best coffee in Central Illinois. It's a coffee trailer serving up top brewed quality coffee, espressos, lattes, frappes, tea, baked goods, and much more. You can find them on Facebook at Iron Palm Coffee 217, IG or Instagram Iron Palm 217. Seriously, go support this guy. He's a big part of my story. Um, Incredible guy, incredible vision, the best coffee around. Go support him.
We are also brought to you by Sheehan and Sheehan Lawyers, located at 1215 South 4th Street, Suite A. They can be contacted at 217-544-0701. I'm talking Pat Sr., Pat Jr., and Willie. They can be contacted for adoption needs, agricultural law, business and commercial law, estate planning, real estate planning, taxation, traffic and minor traffic offenses, personal injury, wrongful death suits. And I grew up with Willie playing baseball on the Southwest Braves. We were state champs. He played high school baseball and soccer at SHG. Pat Jr. was an accomplished baseball player at SHG, SCI, and finally the U of I. We really appreciate the Sheens here. Love this guy. Love this family. Great, great family. So go see these guys. Appreciate you.
Ding.
We are also brought to you by Primo Designs and that baseball family over there. They are located at 2417 North Grand Avenue. They can be reached at 217-523-6373. Since 1985, more than 5,000 businesses, schools, and healthcare providers have trusted Primo Designs to help them promote and build their brand. They're awesome with uniforms, tees, branded items. They have top quality, fast delivery, competitive prices, and like I already said, the Namovich name is an absolute baseball name in the community. Go support these guys. They've been doing uniforms since way back when I was in T-ball. Really have a lot of respect for them. I've done some projects with them and will continue to do so in the future. We appreciate you, Primo Designs. We are also brought to you by Hammers Radon Mitigation Solutions. You can reach them at 217-670-4292, hammersradon@gmail.com, or head on over to their website, hammersradonmitigation.com. They do exactly what you need. This is everything radon that you can think of. This is Les Hammers. This is a Springfield firefighter, a former standout football player at Jacksonville, Truman State, and then played a little pro ball, a little arena ball himself. Since opening, Hammers Radon Mitigation Solutions have become masters of their craft. Their commitment to quality mitigation, exceptional services, and incomparable customer care keep our homeowners safe. They never stop improving and will continue to expand their offerings. Get in touch with Les today. You will not be disappointed. We really appreciate you guys. Thanks, Les. We are also brought to you by Cornerstone Financial Services. This is my good buddy Ryan Kaiser, who has 18 years in the business. They are located at 2001 West Monroe Street, 217-718-4670. This is an absolute baseball family, the Kaiser family. They're Cubs crazy. They're part of the Arsenal family. Ryan specializes in retirement planning, estate planning, is a certified financial planner, and does wealth management. There's over 60 years of experience in that building with other financial services guys. Please go see them for anything you might have in this field. We really appreciate you. Big fan of Ryan Kaiser. We are also brought to you by Cardinal Cleaning. They can be reached at cardinalcleaningonline.com and 217-679-6567. The owner-operator, Adam Springer, local baseball dude, family friend, stand out at Chatham Glenwood in the mid-'90s. Also had a stellar career at Rend Lake and Kentucky Wesleyan. Cardinal Cleaning can take care of any cleaning needs you have. Home, business, restaurant, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever you need, they can take care of you. Get a hold of Cardinal Cleaning. They'll do the rest. We are also brought to you by Matt Brewer. Matt is an attorney here in town at the law offices of Stephen Kelly. Matt exclusively practices in the areas of personal injury and workers' compensation. He can be reached at 217-544-8000 or mbrewer@stephenkelly.com. I loved competing against this guy growing up. He was an SHG grad, 2002, stud in football and baseball. Went on to star for Dan Callahan at SIU Carbondale and then had a one-year career pitching in the Diamondbacks organization. I ran into this guy the other day. He looks like he could still lace him up. We appreciate you, Matt. We are also brought to you by Matt Brewer. Matt is an attorney here in town at the law offices of Stephen Kelly. Matt exclusively practices in the areas of personal injury and workers' compensation. He can be reached at 217-544-8000 or mbrewer@stephenkelly.com. I loved competing against this guy growing up. He was an SHG grad, 2002, stud in football and baseball. Went on to star for Dan Callahan at SIU Carbondale and then had a one-year career pitching in the Diamondbacks organization. I ran into this guy the other day. He looks like he could still lace him up. We appreciate you, Matt.
Okay, we're back. I guess this is going to be part 3, and we're going to finish it out with our Q&A. And just to, Jamie, you did warn me that you had some things to say, and that I was going to have to wrangle you in at times. And I have loved hearing you talk baseball and letting it all pour out. So don't feel like you need to be short at all. I'm here with you. I will burn the midnight oil. I want to hear what you have to say about all this baseball stuff. I've got some really interesting questions here for you, about 65 questions here for you. So if you're ready to go, I'll just start firing.
Yes, that's a lot of questions. Woo!
You ready, buddy?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's start it off. Have you listened to any other guests that I've had on? If yes, who have been some of your favorites?
Yes, I believe you, JU for one. I've listened to that one. When I listened to that one on JU, there was a lot of things that I had no idea about JU. Even as far as his progress through all, the minors and all that. Just didn't say I had no idea. I knew that stuff was, I just didn't really understand and know exactly what was going on. But man, really, what a great, cool career. I mean, him and Jason both. I mean, those, just phenomenal. So proud of those guys. Just really proud and proud to be a part of what they did. Early on in their careers, and they moved on and did wonderful things, and they're still doing wonderful things. JU and I, we go fishing together. We still see each other, once a year. I try to get there. I missed a couple years ago. We moved down here, so it's pretty far away, but I've drive up and, spend 3 or 4 days with those guys, him and Brad Leiniger and Kurt Leiniger, and we go crappie fishing and have a great time, man. It's awesome. It's a good time.
I love that.
I believe, you had was PJ Finnegan on? No.
Oh yeah, it was incredible.
Yeah, that was, I listened to a little bit of PJ. Man, the whole Finnegan family is wonderful.
Incredible.
They're incredible people. Greg did so many things for baseball, Mary was, it's just a great mom person. Just, I got a chance to really know them when I was at Springfield High when she was the secretary. So we got a chance to talk a lot.
Oh, really?
She was secretary of Springfield High, and we used to talk a lot. I mean, it was a lot of good times together. But Mikey, he does our fantasy baseball league with us.
Mikey Finnegan?
And I go back to that too. Sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but Scotty Miller and Kevin Reed and Brendan Connor. So we still get together once a year. Yeah, I haven't been back to yet, but we're all in a fantasy league together, baseball. So it's really it's pretty cool. Rito won it last year. Yeah, he did good. Connor's won it a few times. I think Miller's won it. Coach Telger's in it. Rob Telger hosts it. Yeah. So it's really cool.
Shout out to all those guys.
Yeah, shout out to those guys. Those guys, Josh Huff, Huffy's in there too, and some great some cool names, but anyway.
Absolutely. I think you already answered this, but tell me who you grew up rooting for. It was the Cardinals, is what you said?
Yeah, I'm a Cardinal fan.
Okay. Who is the greatest pitcher? Who is the greatest hitter of all time?
Greatest hitter, I think, Pete Rose.
Pete Rose. Interesting.
Pete Rose. I love Pete Rose. I mean, you could throw Hank Aaron in there too. I mean, Hanky, Hammer and Hank. I didn't really get a chance to see. I saw growing up at a young age Pete Rose play, and I thought he was an unbelievable hitter. As far as pitchers, I'm a true Maddox I'm a Greg Maddux guy. You know, he was
Yeah.
very crafty and just really good. Controlled everything very well for, you know, a good period of time. And then you had Roger Clemens. I mean, Clemens, you can put him up there too. Roger Clemens
Absolutely.
was a flat out just machine. I mean,
Can't go wrong with either of those choices, my
mhm,
friend.
mhm.
Who are your top 5 favorite all-time players? They don't have to necessarily be the greatest. Just
Right.
who are your favorites?
Well, Pete Rose for one thing. I loved how he played, man. He played the game hard, you know, as a player. You know, I liked him as a player. You know, I mean, I know all the stuff that went on with it as a coach. You know, I had, you know, the wrong things and everything, but as a player, Pete Rose was one of my tops. Will Clark. I'm a Will Clark fan. You
Will
know,
the Thrill, that
Will
swing,
the Thrill.
man.
Yep, the swing was unbelievable. You know,
Man.
I've got an autographed bat from Will Clark. You know,
Oh,
I still
wow,
have
that's
it. You
cool.
know, and it's pretty cool. George Brett. I'm a George Brett guy. He's one of my. You know, he wore number 5. You know, it was my favorite number. You know, love. I mean, never forget the home run that got called back and running out and
The Pine Tar home
the
run.
Pine Tar home run. It just
He's so fiery. I love that
so
guy. One of my
intense.
favorite all times as well. Yeah.
And you know, Ozzie Smith. I mean, I grew up watching Oz, the great Oz. You know, he was just phenomenal. And, you know, and then you know, Jim Thome was one too. Jim Thome, I loved watching Jim. You know, he's a good one. You know, he's a local guy too. You know, and he had a great career in the big leagues. Actually played against Jim Thome in high school. You know,
he said Bartonsville limestone,
he had a couple bombs. He was pretty skinny back then, but he was good. You knew he was going to be, you know,
Something
go on.
special.
And if I can throw one more in there, I got to throw Derek Jeter in. I got to throw Jeter in. Jeter was one of my top players to watch ever.
What did you love about Jeter?
He was just so consistent and so you know, just a great product of the Yankees. You know, I mean, he just, you know, you're right back to as far as the play that he made in I don't know if it was the World Series or the NLCS, coming all the way from shortstop to cut off a ball and cut off
against the A's.
You know, to know that, to do that is just high
phenomenal. Baseball IQ.
Just baseball, you know. So you know, I love guys that had great baseball IQ. You know, he was great. You know, so those are my top.
What about favorite MLB stadium? Or you got a couple that you really liked?
No, I'm obviously Busch. I mean, the old Busch was good, and I haven't been to. Be honest with you, I haven't been. I'd like to get to Fenway someday. I think that would be a great place to go to.
I bet it's magical.
Wrigley Field. I mean, Wrigley Field is. Sure. I mean, I'm not a Cub fan, but Wrigley Field.
You still got to respect it.
You got to respect it, and great place to go. You know, so
100%.
Even Kauffman Stadium in Kansas City is a cool place.
A really nice stadium. That waterfall's cool. Absolutely.
So,
okay. How about what's your favorite baseball movie about?
Bull Durham.
Hands down.
Hands down. Bull Durham is my favorite. I love watching it. It just brings back some good memories and yeah. It's just,
anything else? Okay.
No, that's it.
What's the worst?
You know, maybe Angels in the Outfield.
Yep.
Boo. You know, I'm just not a big fan of that one.
What was your glove brand of choice? And I guess we could go infield and outfield if you had a different one. Or I'd love to just talk about your glove of choice, size, webs that you liked.
Well, I was always a closed web guy, especially in the infield. The infield, A2000 Wilson A2000 was my glove, and then the glove that I had for the outfield was a Rawlings. I'm not sure the if there's a number on it or what, but it was a 12 and a half, I think.
That sounds right. What was the web on it?
It was closed web. You know, closed web. I had all closed web, and probably should have had an open web in the outfield just because of the when you're going for a fly ball. I always closed I was always taught to never have a glove open when you're in the outfield. It was always closed. You know, I just close it together. And just open it up when you needed to, but to block the sun, whatever. So that closed web help keep that sun, in my eyes. So
did you care about the color of the glove? You prefer black or tan?
I was pretty tan. I mean, I was more of a tan guy.
Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I bet you got an interesting take here. How did you like to break in gloves? Did you use anything special in terms of conditioners or oils or potions or mink oil or this or that? What you got?
Shaving cream.
I'm a big shaving cream believer
Use
as
some
well.
shaving cream and and
Nice and
sometimes
light.
if you do too much shaving cream, it'll dry out pretty quick.
Yeah.
But oils, glove oils, especially in the web or in the strings. And then I'd always put a softball inside the glove, wrap it, and put it under my bed. I'd put it under my bed to try to get it to break in. But I think this day and age, I'm not sure, but I think that most of the gloves that you can buy pretty much come already broke in, basically, in a
Some
sense,
of them
do they?
are softer. I know the Rawlings Pro Preferred is like a really soft leather
So
that comes pretty much. You just got to get the pocket right, and you can
pocket. That's
within a week you could probably be playing it.
that's what I feel like. I think anytime you get the pocket right, if you get that pocket
Yeah.
right, it's that's why I always used a softball. It was a
Yeah.
little bit bigger.
I
That
like
way when
that.
the baseball came in, it was stick. In a sense, so.
That makes sense. Did you
Mhm.
prefer infield or outfield as a
Man,
player?
I love the outfield. I really did,
Okay.
but I love the action too.
Okay.
So both, the infield, there's a lot of action going on,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of game experience, game thoughts, going on, guys stealing, covering bags, cutoffs. I mean, there was so much to go on, and your shortstop's your general,
Yeah.
and I liked being the general when I played shortstop. You like being in charge, not really in charge, but you're in the thick of it,
Right.
and but center field's also the same way. Center
Mhm.
field, you see the whole field. So you're in charge in the outfield. The center field is in charge in my eyes. And balls are coming up, you got priority. Over that infield. On different. So I like that too. I mean, I really enjoyed playing the outfield for sure. But
Awesome,
I
guys.
like playing both.
Yeah, man,
Yeah,
showing off that big arm.
yeah.
What are your top three favorite swings of all time?
Will Clark,
I'm gonna say Will's got to be in there. Yeah.
Tony Gwynn.
Hmm.
Tony Gwynn was a good one, and I loved watching Albert Pujols hit. He,
Man,
he,
is there a better prime of all? I don't know.
no,
I mean,
Albert
his time with the
Pujols was.
Cardinals was just special.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really cool to see him in St.
Okay.
Louis, and yeah, enjoyed that one.
Okay. Here's another question for you. Do you keep up with any? I don't know. I don't know how much you keep up with baseball these days. So do you keep up with any of like? There's a ton of new modern hitting stuff that's out. Do you look at any of this, or do you care? Or
You know, Blake, I don't really know. I don't keep in track. I'll be honest with you. I'm in the
Okay.
golf world now.
Yeah.
My every day is I go to my office is the golf course. Which is pretty cool. It's a really
Yeah.
cool thing, and not because I'm playing golf, but because I'm helping you know
Yeah.
groom and make sure that the golf course is ready to play every day. And
Are you getting a
um,
chance to actually swing it yourself?
yeah, I'm
Being
actually
out
playing
there?
tomorrow. I'm going to play
Okay.
tomorrow. My
Beautiful.
old boss is came down from up in Pennsylvania, and we're going to play some golf tomorrow at Wexford. So
Okay. Cool. Were there any swings when you were playing that you tried to emulate, or put parts of
y-
it into how you did things, or you just do it the way Stashy did it?
I really didn't emulate too many people. Sometimes you'd mess around, do the little Rod Carew, and
Yeah.
in practice and stuff. But maybe do a little Pete Rose swing, or never. I really never got behind
Yeah.
anybody and said, "All right, this is how I'm going to hit." I just had kind
Sure.
of had my own.
What were some of your favorite hitting drills, both as a player and as a coach?
As a player, I mean, BP. I mean, BP itself was awesome.
Yeah.
As far as drills, the soft toss drills were good. I wasn't a big tee guy, tee work guy, but I was, the forward behind, the soft toss behind, staying back and driving the ball the other way up the middle was a really good drill. I thought for everybody, even as a coach, I loved that. I liked that one.
Hmm.
But I've kind of top hand, bottom hand stuff. Just little things. Just the little things about the swing, was really important to me as a coach and as a player. Just dialing it in. If you get
Hmm.
that, everything else will come.
One place.
But it's just the little things were very important. So
Were there any drills that you did not like, you thought were just kind of ridiculous? Well, you said you didn't like tea.
Yeah, I don't like tea. I wasn't really much of a
Why?
tea guy.
Why?
I don't know. I just think that it can. I think it can develop some poor
Habits.
swings.
Absolutely.
You know, just because I mean you can set it up, set it down, but you got to kind of set it. I mean, if it's down low, you got to really chop. But then you got to. I don't know. I just wasn't really a fan of it.
It can definitely create some bad habits. It can make guys pushy. It can make them get really long and slow and just not realistic. So I think some guys can use the tee and it's beneficial, and some guys I think should not at all be on the tee. And it pains me to think how many wasted reps how much time I spent on a tee practicing incorrect repetitions.
Yeah. So
anyway,
I mean, real quick, if you don't mind, going back to the Southeast guys, you know, we used to do a tee scrimmage. And yeah, so I put you put the tee at home plate, and you would you instead of pitching, you hit off the tee and and play the game.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody ever hit the ball out of the infield. And it was just like it was basically an infield game, and it's like this doesn't have any. I want the outfield to get involved too here.
Yeah.
So it was really not kind of the purpose of it was. I think the purpose it was good purpose, but it just didn't develop the way I wanted it to develop. So I just
Okay. That makes sense to me. All right. Tell me about your approach as at the plate as a hitter. When you were, were you looking to hit the ball in the air? Were you looking to be on time up the middle, the opposite way? What were you thinking up there?
Shooting for the gaps.
If you had an approach.
Yeah, I was always trying to shoot for the gaps.
So from left to right center.
Right center, left center, right center. That's what Coach Crean always, even McDonald all the way through the college, they always preached shoot the gaps. If you got gap power, you got you're on it. Everything's they always talked about being short to the point of contact, long on extension. Was kind of the words. I might have preached that at one point in time to you guys.
You remember
as well.
that? Yep.
And there was always another one too. Coach Crean, A to C through B as quickly as possible with a little lift. At the end. So A here, through B, which is the ball, and you're finished, it kind of made sense with a little bit of lift. Nothing this, but just down to it. That's kind of. I was a firm believer in the start of the approach with the barrel, and I don't, when I was teaching it, start with the barrel and shoulder. People, some kids, but can't, they're not strong enough quite yet, for the horseshoe. And if that barrel stays, you can still get strong with that barrel on your shoulder. It stays quiet.
It's a great neutral place to start from, I think, the shoulder slot.
Absolutely, and I felt good about it. And if a kid was ever struggling, I would do that with them. Put the bat in your shoulder. Let's get the short down. The movement part of it, because you're dipping. Things are going out. So let's just keep it there. Keep your hands 45. Boom, and get to the ball. And it worked. It worked for a lot of guys.
I like that. Yeah. Did you ever move around in the box as a hitter, and where did you prefer to set up?
The only time I moved around, I set up in the back of the box. I wanted the ball to get as long as possible, and then every time, obviously, anytime you're bunting, I'd move up on the plate. I'd be up on the plate, to be able to get to that outside pitch. But I also, at the time, I had good enough hands to get to the inside pitch too, if they were coming in on me, So, but anytime I would bunt, I'd move up, in front of the plate.
You already touched on this a little bit. You talked about, a lot of reps and whatnot in your strength and conditioning stuff in college and pro ball. Is there anything else that you want to talk about what you did when you were in college and pro ball with that, or just lighter weight, a lot of reps, stuff like that, keep you lean?
Well, the weight program was a lot of reps, low weight, a lot of reps. But the other part, of getting in shape and being in the best. My senior year in college, I was probably the best shape of my life. I'll never be in that shape again because Coach Crean and those guys, they put us through.
Conditioning were you doing? Yeah,
conditioning was unbelievable. Crazy. It was all quick sprints. Hundreds down to 90s to 80 to 70 to 60, then back up the down the ladder, up the ladder, and it was intense. all intense, and you did it. You get through it, and you did it, and you do it. Try to do it the best you can, and there was no excuses. Out in the rainy days. When there was a rainy day, oh my gosh, a rainy day was. Did we get rained out? We're like, oh no, we're rained out. Here we go. I mean, you're out in the outfield. You're doing pulls. You're doing box drills. I mean, and the rain for mental toughness. It was all about being mentally tough. And you get there pretty quick.
That's cool.
So.
Moving on. Do you have a most memorable bomb from your career?
Most memorable bomb was probably Furman.
Yeah.
And what Coach was talking about, it had to have been. I mean, the ball went out so fast. I mean, it came off the bat, and it's almost one of those ones where I didn't even feel it.
Yeah.
You hit it so hard, you didn't even feel it. It was just pure, and it was gone. Yeah. And I think Coach, he didn't mention it, but I think when I was playing at Kentucky Rifles, I think one of the kids that was, he joked about it. He was one of the kids were, when they went back the next year, were talking about that bomb.
Really?
That I hit, and they asked him where I was at. He said, "Man, he's playing AAA for the Cardinals right now." Just joking. I think that's what he said. He told me that was pretty funny.
Well, you should.
The guy's whoa. So.
I love that. How fun was Stashy Time BP for you?
Stashy Time BP was a really fun. I mean, it was the best time. I mean, I got to. I was showing off Strat Cypher. I mean, I did show off a little bit, but I was also I wanted to show everybody that, if a 30-year-old guy can do it, still do it.
Well, we thought it was awesome.
We
were like, oh, I hate this. This was cool. Like,
I mean, it was fun. I enjoyed it. You could see I know at times you guys probably were like, all right, that's enough.
Maybe.
That's enough, Coach. We've seen it. Let's go. So, but I will tell you this. I got to tell you this real quick. The kids didn't know it, but when I was at Southeast in the summertime, we had, the old Green Eastons.
Yeah.
These guys have, everybody's got these expensive bats, So the old Green Easton, probably shouldn't tell this, but I'm going to tell it.
There we go.
The old Green Easton was an old bat. So we took the cap off, Telgar and I, capped it with tennis balls, glued it back on. So we loaded the bat. So I would hit with the Green Easton all the time. And that's pretty much why I had a little help. I did have a little help. As I got older, I needed a little help. Because when I was younger, the bombs were going out. As I got older, the bombs weren't quite going out. So I man, we got to do something here. And we capped it. And we told the guy, they laughed at it later on. These guys, they all laugh at it now. But yeah, it was cool. Yeah, we capped that baby and showed off. And the good thing is the cap never flew off.
The secret's out now, Stashy.
Yeah, it's out. It's out. Yeah, it's all right.
That's great. Oh my God, that's great. We already kind of talked about it a little bit, but I want to talk about the warehouse throws a little bit. All these guys had the same Stashy stories, and from what I always remembered, you weren't like warming up. It would just be like, "Hey, Stashy, show us the arm," and you would just turn around,
chuck it.
I mean, is that how I remember it? Is that accurate? I don't remember you warming up or anything.
Yeah, I hardly ever warmed up. I mean, just stretch. Maybe a couple of these stretches and just let it rock. Yeah. That's probably why I had rotator cuff surgery. Well, I've had both shoulders.
Have you?
Rotator, both rotators. Yeah. Done. I just had this one. My left one was just a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had surgery. I've had surgery on both, so that's probably why.
Those were so incredible, and like I said, I went on Google Earth and did the whole Google Earth distance thing, and those throws were a good 360 to 400. So just incredible bazookas. We always loved those. What are some of the best things to do on bus trips when you're playing ball?
When I was playing ball,
playing cards, you talking? What you doing?
Yeah, we play cards in the back. We play they play poker, play euchre. I'd get in with them once in a while. Most of the time it was the pitchers. The pitchers were back there doing that. A lot of times I was sleeping. I mean, you were kind of resting, and after the game, you're resting. To the game, you're trying to get yourself mentally prepared, to play. And because we're an everyday player, it's not always fun and games, and you try to stay relaxed. But as a player, I just kind of put some headphones in, listen to some music, and kind of get pumped up a little bit. But as a coach, I just remember, the bus rides, the yellow bus. I told myself, man, I hope I never ride on a yellow bus ever again in my life, because I was obviously with a lot of the young kids, the freshmen, not quite as mature as some seniors are the same way, at the time, but always. Every time I remember this, every time we always went somewhere, we were always very respectful. No hats, never wore a hat inside a restaurant. Always take it off. Tuck your shirts in, looking the part, being respectful. Those are little things. But as far as I would do stats. I'd work on the kids would do their thing and they're quiet, and cell phones too. And a lot of times I'd be on the bus and just trying to figure out the book. To make sure the stats were right. And I know stats weren't a crazy big thing at that level, but I still got the books.
Sure.
I still got the books. And I look back on them once, you look back and like, man, okay.
Yeah. All right.
No,
dinner with 3 former players, dead or alive. What you got?
Pete Rose.
Yeah.
I always go back to Pete. I'd love to have dinner with Pete Rose. It'd be great. Ozzy would be a good one. And man, I'm telling you, Will Clark would have been a great one too. You name the same names because those guys were
fine.
Those guys were my guys, that I remember, and those guys would have been great to have dinner with.
As a player, you have any thoughts on visualization or positive affirmations or things like that?
Rob McDonald was huge on visualization. When I first started, you'd go in the gym or in the outfield, and you're breathing through your nose, and it's all about visualizing good thoughts as you're before practice or before games. That's the first time I ever even thought about doing anything like that. And we used to do it with Crean, I believe too. Just getting yourself mentally prepared with visualization. And it's and it's only 5-6 minutes. It's not very long, but it's you start out slow and then you build yourself up. You get your mind right and you pump up. You get up, you're pumped up, and you're ready to go. Ready for practice or ready for the game or whatnot. But I don't think there was. Man, I can't tell you. I don't think there was any game I wasn't ready to play. It was you were ready to go. Especially with some of those coaches, they wouldn't allow you not to be ready. And if you weren't ready, that's on you. So those guys were, they really taught me a lot, about that visualization stuff. So
my next one is I thought of you, and everyone else does too, as a really high level fielding instructor.
Mm-hmm.
Who would you credit? Who are a couple of coaches that you would credit to really helping you get there? Who taught you?
Well, early, Rob McDonald for one thing. Early, a little bit there. He switched over to the glove and got me the right glove, and but I really didn't develop, those infield skills until Crean's story. Where they really drilled me, and so Crean and Skoll, Coach Skoll was a big part of that. He was our infield guy, and he really taught me a lot about hands and feet and positioning and rounding the ball and all that stuff, which allowed me to be able to teach it. I got taught at the senior college level. When I came into coach, it was really cool to be able to teach that at a young level. But in small increments. You can't get too fast, too far too fast, because then you get kids didn't comprehend that. So you had to do little things, the little part of it, and that's really those guys really helped me out. And then just doing it, just doing it with you guys, the players, and every day, and getting out there and showing, and then you learn new stuff. Steve Torselli, Steve Torselli was a big, he talked about, he had camps. We go to his camps and teach, and I know, he wasn't, Steve, he was a first baseman, but as a coach, he could, he knew, some different processes, and always taught different processes of the infield. So I learned some stuff from him too. I can't forget about Coach Tor, man. Coach Tor he's a good one, man. I mean, being around those, and his Tim Tor, those guys were great, great to be around. Absolutely. Also Tim Elliott, being around Tim Elliott,
high level.
Yeah, high level. You learn some stuff from him. He's really good.
Absolutely.
And I was very fortunate I didn't get to coach with Tim very much, but I always watch, I'd get out and watch and see what he's doing with them. And we would kind of collaborate, in some practices, and what do you think? And what do you think? And we just go do it, and we'd show him. And he was really good too. He's
an incredible fielding instructor, and just an incredible coach in person in general. I can't say enough about that guy.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep. Do you have a most memorable game in college or pro ball?
My most memorable game in college would have been, I kind of go back to my freshman year in college. We're over at ICC and had a good game, but it was, my mom was there for the first time, and she never came to see. She was always working,
right?
And I'll never forget, her smiling face and understanding where I've gone, as a young man, and so proud. I mean, she was so proud to see me, and I'll never forget that moment. We got the games were over, and and she kind of somewhat apologized in a way, that she kind of felt probably a little bit bad that she didn't get a chance to see me play more. But she got to say, it was really cool, a really cool feeling. It wasn't about, accolades, going 4 for 4 or this and that. It was just about that moment. It was a really special moment. And I was cool to get to share at least one cool moment with your mom,
absolutely.
That's
so touching.
So it was really neat.
Thanks for sharing that. Do you remember, is there a pro ball game that stands out to you?
Yeah, there was opening night. I think I might have been 3 for 4, and it did go back to the the accolades, I guess. And I robbed the home run. It was in the paper. I went over way over the fence, but I jumped. The ball went out, and I was playing center field, and then it was dark. The lights were real shallow, and I just so happened to get over the fence and caught the ball and brought it back in. That was a cool moment. And that was early in the pro career. It was like the first game, first night. So
I love that.
So that was pretty cool.
What a great way to start your career, my man.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like, man, and then the reporters are there and they're talking. I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool.
So you just talked about your loaded bat. Did you have a favorite bat, or a bat model that you remembered from college or pro ball?
Was it the C270? C270 capped.
C271.
C271 cup was my bat in pro. It was light,
Yep.
I could swing it. I just you need to have something you could swing. The one Coach Crean gave me, what I believe was a TPL, Louisville Slugger, TPL.
Was that when you switched from the 32 to the 4?
From the Black Magic, the 32-29 Black Magic that went over the fence.
I vividly remember you telling us about that when I was in high school. You said you switched from this little bat to this big bat, and all of a sudden you had a little more leverage, a little more pop, like you were saying, and started dropping some tanks. And
absolutely,
I mean, that's physics, That's cool. Yeah. So, what was your number of choice?
Number 5.
5?
Yep.
Why was that?
I mean, I was a George Brett fan. Johnny Bench. I mean, I haven't really mentioned him. I mean, just watching those guys play, I love that number. It just kind of came to me, and Coach Crean they always call that when I talk to him this day, he calls me Fiber. That's my name. Hey, Fiber, what's up? Hey, that's cool. You know, it's pretty cool. Yep. So
did you use batting gloves, or did you
no,
raw dog it, or what'd you do?
Raw dog.
Raw dog.
I know. I had a batting glove in my glove in the field. Yeah. You know, for a little extra padding, but as far as batting, I was raw.
So were you using like tar and stuff like that to keep some
just
stick,
a little tar to stick, but never too far up the bat. You know, just
not George Brett style.
No, not George Brett. No. You know, so yeah, we used that stickum. You know, they had that stickum stuff, and use that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you have preferred spikes that you like? You know, Nike, Mizuno, Adidas, any of those, or did it matter?
I'm pretty sure we were Reebok.
Okay, Reebok guy.
I'm pretty sure most of the time we were Reebok.
All right, tell me about your thoughts on long toss. What is the ideal long toss? How do you think in terms of building arm strength?
Well, you got to start. I mean, obviously start out short and get loose, you know, on that type of stuff. But you know, after my injury, I mean, before my injury, I was a big fan, and then when I got injured by actually doing long toss, I had second thoughts. You know, there was a little bit of second thoughts on the launch. Okay. And then I also got second thoughts on how, you know, because some guys, as far as the height level of where you're throwing it to, I think it's good to stretch it out, but I think you got to be careful, you know, I think you got to be careful on how long you're trying to get, so you don't extend it out too far, you know, and try to go too far. You know, there's got to be a point where you
can overdo it.
Overdo it, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. Cool. So if you weren't, so did you still do some long tossing after that, or just a shorter version, or were you? How were you developing? How were you keeping your arm strong then, if you were no longer?
Well, I wasn't no long. We still. I just did it differently. I didn't throw as far. We still did long toss, and it was more of a instead of the 250 feet that you're trying to throw it to, it's you're dialed into about 150 feet, you know, and you start out loop. I always start out with a loop and then start bringing it down. Okay. And then, you know, I'd always look for the head, you know, try to throw to the head, you know, because you're getting distance out of it, especially when you're throwing the outfield, you want some distance, but on a line. You know, on a line. So,
all right. Did you have walk-up music when you were playing?
We didn't, but if I did, man, I would like the Gap Band. You dropped a bomb on me would have been a great one. Yeah,
that was my next question. That's perfect.
We kind of did in pro ball, I guess. But I don't remember what it was. We didn't like pick them, they just did them, you know, played them, and I don't remember what it was, but you dropped the bomb on me would have been a good one.
That would have been perfect for you. What did it mean to you to be inducted into the LMU Hall of Fame?
Oh, that was a really, it was a special time.
Did you go down there for it?
Yeah, I did. I went for the ceremony. The kids didn't, but I think I still have my kids, you know, Kate and McAllister. They wrote up some letters, you know, for Dad, you know, and at the time it was a really special moment. They were younger. They you know, we tried to, I think my ex-wife, she tried to, you know, make it really special, you know, to let them understand how special it is, or it was. Couldn't thank Regina Burns, who's still there at LMU. She was a big part of the nomination, I believe. They're really, really good people. McAllister, we were down there for a year or so when coaching. I went down there to coach a little bit too after Springfield High in like '98 when I left. Yeah, we went down. I was a grad assistant for a year at LMU.
Interesting. Really?
Yeah. But that's when we got to meet the Burns family. I knew the Burns family when I was playing there because he was one of the using the athletics, but his wife, and they had young kids as well. And McAllister and maybe it's their oldest, middle guy. Maybe it's the middle guy. Maybe it might be the youngest. I think it might have been their youngest. but they were good, good friends, and went to daycare together and did all that. So Regina Burns was a big part of the nomination part of me, with my stats and the things that I did at LMU to be a part of such really, really tremendous athletes throughout the times that, through LMU, because there's a lot of good ones, that, obviously the Hall of Fame is the top, as a player to be nominated and to get in. It was really cool, a really special moment at that time. And then I got the chance to go back and see my buddy Fitz, my roommate, the one that's Stoneman Douglas. He got inducted, it's probably 5 or 6 years ago, but we went back to see him get inducted. They couldn't make it at the time for me, but when I was there, but I don't remember him being there. But that was a cool moment. Yeah, special class. Absolutely. It was cool.
Getting recognized like that, absolutely. When it comes to your pro career, and I think you kind of already answered it, but maybe you have a different answer. Do you have any what ifs in your head and heart?
No? Not really. I don't have any what ifs. I felt like I was, I felt like I did. Obviously, from the coaches that spoke, they felt that I, just now knowing how they feel or felt about me as a player and as a person, they felt that I was good enough, to do it but not to not get a chance. I mean, I got a small chance with with the independent, which was really cool to do, and I don't have regrets. I thought it was a good career, and I enjoyed it, and it was time to move on.
I love that. Talk to me about the importance of playing multiple positions and defensive versatility. Being a guy that could play, center and short. You probably could have played anywhere on the field. So, can you talk to me about that?
I think it really helped. It was tremendous. It's really tremendous to be able to play different positions, and play them at a high level, which as a player being able to do that helped me as a coach to be able to teach that, and playing the outfield, the different routes, the different ways you got to go, catching a fly ball, getting behind, or the infield, just all the little drills and different things about the infield. It really helped me, educated me on the game. I really got, the game part of it, being able to play those spots. Even first base, first base, people don't. First base is a big position to play.
Absolutely,
it's very important because you're in the thick of it all the time. And that was a cool position to play. Pitching, I pitched. I closed out games. I started games. I'll never forget. Was a little story I never forget. Todd Fitzgerald. He was. We're at West Georgia, I think. Night game, pretty warm. I'm on the mound, and he's back. The pitchers are back there statting and stuff, and he's got the gun. Or there was a guy back there with a gun, so they're sitting behind him, and I'm throwing warm-ups, and Fitzy's behind there going, flashing numbers, 92, 93, 92, 93. So I'm pumping.
You were running up there?
Mm-hmm. I was pumping 92, 93, and he was all fired up. He's like, But so I could bring it for a little while, and then it probably, it might have been 84, 85 after about 2 or 3 innings, but
I totally believe that, and that's cool that you gave me a velo there, because it makes sense that I really there really isn't an equation with how far you can throw a ball and how there has to be a velocity to be able to throw it that far. So it makes sense to me that if you got a crow hopper too in you, that you were capable of hitting a mid-90s launch like that. So love that arm, my man. And just to touch a little bit on the versatility thing, I went on and played a little bit of independent ball, and I actually released a few times. And one of my biggest regrets, I was an outfielder by the end, but my biggest regrets was not staying proficient at infield stuff. And a few times when I got released, I looked at the utility guy we had, and he could barely hit 200, but he could play all the positions, so he had staying power. And I remember being like, man, if I could just still do a little bit of infield. So if you guys are listening out there, be able to play a lot of positions. It will bode well for you in the future.
Absolutely.
That's my
Couldn't
two
agree
cents.
more.
Yep. All right. Most fun year for you in baseball?
Most fun year?
Yeah.
Freshman year, probably in college.
Really?
It was probably my most fun year. Learning. I mean, it was a first of all, a learning experience, you know, and getting a chance to play. Well, getting a chance to play with that talent was really cool. And right up there with that, there's two Twin City Stars, CICL.
Yeah,
Sal Fasano. You remember Sal Fasano?
I do.
Sal Fasano played the big leagues for a long time.
Yeah.
Played with Sal Fasano with CICL, with Twin City Stars.
Cool.
Tim Brownlee, the Brownlees.
Well, I definitely know the Brownlee. Coach Brownlee was at ISU.
Yes, he was. Yes.
Yeah.
Evansville before that. So Brownlee and Scott Quaddy, the Quaddies, his brother is a coach in the big leagues. There's Jason Jattel, Scott Smole. There's so many of them that I can sit here. I can't remember them all. Oh, Derek Johnson, the pitching coach for the Cincinnati Reds, played with him. He pitched with us with the Twin City Stars, and going back to that summer was probably the most. Even though I didn't play very well, had an unbelievable experience with that group of guys.
Yeah,
Sal Fasano was a top-notch guy, man. He was one of my good friends. And we've lost touch. I never followed, and rode the coach. I didn't get on the bandwagon. And I really had never done that with anybody. I just, I follow, but I was never one of those guys. I'm going to ride his coattails, and because he's my guy, and I wasn't like that. But Sal Fasano, I could have been like that with him because we were really close.
Yeah.
Him and I go back to him. Sal and I used to put a bucket of baseballs at ISU Stadium, Redbird Field at home plate, and throw balls off the scoreboard in right
I believe
field.
it.
But Sal, I was good, and I had a little bit of loop on mine, but Sal was a catcher. He had a strong arm. He would throw that baby on a line and pelt it. I mean,
wow.
Just hover off the ground and pelt it. He could throw it.
Wow. Man.
So he was fun to be around. So that was a great fun group. But yeah, that freshman year in college was probably the as far as both teams were very good. We won. We had a lot of victories, a lot of good memories.
I love it. What was your least fun year in baseball?
Probably my last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that last year was, well, I kind of like to take that back. I mean, the sophomore year in college was, it was kind of a letdown. Not really a letdown. I got hurt, so there was a lot of things going on. Am I going to be able to do this and get back and be able to play again? And I did. But that last year really just wasn't great. That second year of pro ball was just, wasn't much fun at all.
I hear you. Any superstitions or rituals that you had as a player or a coach?
I really never got into superstition too much, from what I remember. I do know that Todd Fitzgerald had superstition for me. As a player, as a pitcher on the bench, he would come up. I would be on these. I'd get on this streak, and he felt that it was he was doing. But I was on this streak because he would spit. He would spit on my shoe. I mean, literally spit on my cleats before I go up to bat. And I would come up and I was raking. It was just all here, mentally. I'm like, because every time he come, I said, come on, Fitz, you got to do it. He'd come up, he'd spit, boom, we'd go up and we'd hit. So that was just a little thing there as far as not really I'd say a superstition, but just part of some success, I guess.
I wasn't expecting that answer. That's terrific. That's terrific.
He'd remember that, So he was the part of me hitting so well.
I love that. All right, I've got a couple funny ones for you next. What was your dip of choice? What was your brand?
My brand, my brand now is Skull Extra Long, Skull Extra Long Cut. I'm not long cut, but pouches. I do the
Pouch guy now?
pouches.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been pouches for a long time now, but back in the day, I was a Kodiak guy.
You were a Kodiak guy. Kodiak, wintergreen straight?
Wintergreen. Kodiak Wintergreen. It was the only beer you'll ever pinch. Yeah, buddy. Pitch that baby. Little Levi Garrett too. Little Levi Garrett too. Once in a while, a little chaw.
All right, my next question is funny too. Did you ever get caught always having a hog in at school?
Never. No.
We always knew.
Always knew. Never got caught, but one of my players did.
Oh man!
That's when I was coaching the Southeast.
Someone got caught.
Yeah, and I got blamed for it.
I mean, you'd always have a little tiny something in the back. I mean, people that dipped. I started dipping in high school, so I obviously knew what was going on. You see a little fleck around a little tobacco fleck around the side of the lips. It just never got caught.
Never. No one ever busted me out. It was great, But now I've done the pouches for years. I don't. That loose stuff is.
Yeah, you don't mess with it anymore.
Don't mess with that anymore.
Yep. All right. What's some of the best advice you have ever gotten in life, or in baseball?
Best advice.
Maybe that's a broad question, but
yes. Whew.
It can be simple.
I've gotten a lot of good advice by a lot of good people.
Right.
So I mean, it's just, stay the course. Coach. Coach Newell from the start. High school. He was always, stay the course, and get to Coach McDonald. So I've had a lot of good advice from a lot of different coaches, because I've had so many coaches through my playing career that there was always something little. I can't remember something that totally, right off the bat, but there's so many good things coming out of those guys' mouths and brains that were smart people and great leaders that really helped me get through.
That makes sense to you, or to me. At what age did professional baseball become a goal for you?
Well, I wanted to play professional baseball when I was at a young age. You always, little league. I'm next MLB. I'm gonna play in the pro. I'm playing the bigs. That's what I'm gonna do. And that was, always the goal. Was it realistic? Probably not, but still, you had to have some kind of goal. And that's what
this is a good one here. So my dad always says that I was the little guy that had big dreams. What advice would you have for a young kid falling in love with the game that has big dreams?
Play hard, play smart, do the little things, right? Stay the course, do what you're asked to do. Stay with it, and good things will happen. I always tell the guys, little things are very, very important, not just in baseball, but in life. Enjoy it, enjoy the ride, but do it in a way that's, respectful and, commitment, stay committed, feel good about it. You got to feel good about what you're doing. I always wanted to look good. If you look good, you feel good.
There we go. Like that.
And that is huge to me. Even now, when I go to work in the golf course, you're tucked in, your polos, your khaki pants. I got nice tennis shoes. I don't wear a hat anymore. I haven't worn a hat in years. But still, you're still one. If you look good, you feel good. That's important to me. Always was important to me, especially as a coach with a young kid. I always tried to look good, and not just to impress, just because that was a part of it. Coach Crean was that way. Coach McDonald was that way. All those guys were that way. They look good, and I wanted to be like that.
Look professional.
Professional. Yeah.
Yep.
Very
Okay.
professional, so.
That's a great answer.
Thanks.
Looking back, what are you most proud of from your career as a player and as a coach?
I'm just proud that I got the opportunity, very proud that people thought, highly of me,
Yeah.
and at the different levels to give me an opportunity, as a young kid from a small town, um, didn't know much of the world at all.
Yeah.
We were just very small, and and those coaches and even my brothers and sisters, they were a good part of it too. They stayed the course with me. They stayed on me, and kept me going. And yeah, I'm really proud of. I'm proud of a lot of things. My career. I thought my career was great, and I don't know what else to say about that.
Okay.
I'm,
Yeah.
a lot of thoughts going through, but
Yeah, man. It's all good.
it's,
There's a lot to be proud of.
mm,
100%. You did a lot for a lot of people.
mm.
Moving on. Pimping home runs, yay or nay?
Back in the day, no, nay, but now, yay. I like it.
Really?
I
Yeah.
do.
Fun?
Fun, but just to a certain extent.
Right.
Let's be, let's have some fun with it. Yeah, you hit a bomb,
Celebrate. Yeah.
celebrate a little bit, but
Okay.
run
I
the
like that.
bases.
Yeah.
Don't dog
Yeah.
it. Don't dog the bases. You can
Well
dog it
said.
here from the start, but don't dog it. Don't dog it on the bases.
I
If you
love
start
that.
dogging on the bases, that's when
Yeah.
problems come.
Yeah. I like
You
that.
know.
Favorite manager or coach? Can you pick one? Or is it too many important?
Man, there's so many of them. They're all great. I think. I mean, I never had one that was. I really never had a coach that was like, man, he's not good. He's
Yeah.
just these guys. I was like I said, I was very fortunate to be able to be around great coaches and mentors and just and not just in the these guys weren't just for the sport. It was just life.
Yeah.
It was about life too, so
Do you have any regrets as a coach?
regrets as a coach. No, I don't think I have any really regrets. I look back and I probably could have done some things a little bit differently at times. We always look back and do that. You can
Sure.
hindsight 2020, but I'd like, I wouldn't take anything back, but I would probably do some things a little bit differently throughout, the coaching years.
Mhm.
Later on, I would have, tried to slow down a little bit quicker,
Mhm.
with the groups that you had,
Sure. Yeah.
so
What What do you miss most about being around the game?
kids, players,
Yeah. Yeah.
coaches. I mean, the coaches you're with all the time, their families, you know, um, had a lot, just, some of the parents, like the parents. I miss, I miss those type of things, the coaches that coached for me. I haven't seen those guys in a long, it's been a long time since I've seen a lot of those guys. Matt Nunn and Chad
Matt Nunn.
Deathridge.
Yeah.
Chad Deathridge was my first assistant at Southeast. What a great guy, man, a great dude. Mike Bice, they're Springfield High kids. Mike Bice coached with me. Matt Nunn. I think I mentioned him.
Stud.
He was a stud. And
Absolutely.
of
Those
course,
Nunn
Coach
brothers.
Leiniger and
Yeah.
I'm probably missing some people there, but all those yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It I'm really happy that you're doing well in life and you're doing something that you're feeling fulfilled with, but
Mm.
it does hurt my heart in some way that you're not still involved in the game in the way that you used to be. I mean, I guess you have given so much to the game that you get a pass and
Thank
you can ride off into the sunset if you want to, but man, you had such an impact on so many people, man.
Well,
I just yep. All right.
thank you.
Uh,
I would say this. I have been summoned a little bit around here to do some coaching.
Oh,
There's
good.
a,
Okay.
I mean, I haven't done anything yet. So my job it's very not demanding, but it's, we have a lot of hours, long hours, and it's tough for me to get away to be able to be, to do what I would want to do.
Right.
If I'm going to do it,
All the way or the
I
right way.
want to go all in and
Yeah.
do it. Now, when
Sure.
I retire from all this golf and my career,
Yeah.
I think I mean, my wife and I right now, Jeannie Stash, what a lovely person. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful lady. Couldn't ask for anything better. She's
Happy for you.
been tremendous for my life.
Yeah.
But she's always, she said that, when we talk about it, when you get done, with the golfing and retire, I think you're going to get back into coaching. I said, I think you're probably right. I got to do something, and
I'd
I
love to
think I
see
can
that.
still do it, and
Of course you can.
I know the game itself is a little bit, I would say, different, but a lot of things have been different, but that doesn't matter. You get back into it. And,
Yeah.
she was a coach too. My wife, she was a track coach at Springfield High.
Really?
So so she knows the whole coaching world. And she coached under Eric Warren, and then she was the head track coach for a few years. And, back in I think it's the 90s.
Yeah.
But taught biology at Springfield High. She was there for a long, while. And I don't know if you ever had her, Jeannie Edwards.
No,
Miss
I
Edwards.
never had her. Nope. Never had her.
So yeah, but that's we're celebrating our 10-year.
I'm so happy
year.
for you, brother. I'm
Yeah,
so happy.
it's been wonderful. Yeah, she's been a wonderful, wonderful part of my life. So
Beautiful.
can't ask for anything more.
I'm thrilled for you. When you did you have more fun coaching high school or the summer ball stuff?
Oh, I had more fun coaching summer ball, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean those guys. We had such a good time, man.
Yeah.
I mean, we had fun in high school too, and I think Henry put it on the. I never let things get out. We coached the same. From summer. When we were during the game. But and our lives were a little bit different in high school as far as me. Hanging out with them. I had a family too. I had young kids, but in summer ball, the kids were there. They were always there with us, so we were always together. They never missed. I don't think they ever missed a weekend or a game. We were always together. Right. With the kids, with their parents. We would go out to eat together. It was just such a great run. And Coach Telger, I just can't say
Robbie
his.
T.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna get me to say it. Oh, I can't do it. That's good.
Sorry, Coach Teller.
That's all right. That's good. But no, him taken away from his family too. He had 3 girls, and and at the time, and and Tosh, she's wonderful. His wife was wonderful. Didn't always make it to every game, but Telger, he missed a few here and there, but he pretty much dedicated. He ended up becoming the head coach at, I believe, the head coach at Lutheran for a few years, and after the Stars, which we kind of led him into that, he loved baseball,
Absolutely.
So, but it was really cool. So,
love that. Do you have any? Do you watch baseball at all?
Very seldom. I watched a couple spring games the other day.
Okay.
I just once in a while I watch a little bit, and now. I probably watch the Braves more than I would anybody because we're down here. We're 4 hours from Atlanta, and the Braves are on all the time. If the Braves are playing the Cardinals, it's cool. I watch a couple innings here or there, but I never really sit down and watch a full game.
Do you have any thoughts on the evolution of the game? And when I say that, I mean pitching has gotten so good, and with all the metrics, and everyone in the bullpen now throws high 90s with movement and shape. The offense has really become kind of a 3-outcome game of, home run, strikeout, walk. Do you have any thoughts on any of that?
Whatever happened to the complete game?
Yeah, there's the subtleties, the artistry, the minutia of baseball has been lost in many ways.
Lost, yeah, I think. It's totally different. Now, the time clock, thing is it really speeding the game up? I don't know.
Not sure.
Not
I don't
sure.
think not that much, right?
Not that much,
Cutting
but
off like 5 minutes a game or something like that. Is that
maybe.
significant? Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and the whole, the strike zone thing with the umpires and and the replays and
Yeah.
mm, I mean, you're taking some, I mean, obviously they're getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
Same thing in the NFL, you all these replays and all this stuff. I get it. You want to get it right.
Yeah.
But whatever happened to the human element, the human error, the human element, I mean, of
Yeah.
the integrity of that, trust in these guys that's what they do. That's what they do.
Right.
They're officials and that's their life.
Yeah.
And that's what they, these major league umpires, that's their life, their
Absolutely.
profession.
Yeah.
And I would say, in my eyes, 90% of them are really good.
And I kind of like that it's not perfect with an umpire. There is room for human error, and that's part of the game. You got hosed on a call 10 years ago and you still remember it, or I don't
Oh
know.
yeah. Yeah,
That's not a
yeah.
great example, but
Well,
there is a human element in the game that I don't want to be taken out by the
right.
robo
Mhm.
umpires and things like that.
Right.
But I also
Yeah.
I don't want the games to be shorter. I love the length of baseball games.
Mhm.
It's like a Greek tragedy. It plays out, it's this long,
Mhm.
but you have to have a love and appreciation for the subtleties of baseball to really
Mhm.
get every part of it,
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know.
Yep.
My
Mhm.
thoughts. Do
Yeah.
you miss coaching at all?
Oh yeah, I miss it.
Yeah.
Now do I? I mean, I don't really fret over it a lot. I mean, the position I'm in now doesn't allow me to think about it too much.
Yeah.
I'm going to 80 acres, 80 acres of grass
Yeah.
and sand, and every day, and trying to help make sure that we're on the right page and we're doing it right with.
Yeah.
I can give those guys a shout out too. And my guys here at Wexford, my boss, Billy Dearman, and the guy who hired me, Chris Neff, is now he's gone, but he's a USG agronomist. In Southern, he's traveling, doing great things. Loved him. Who hired me, Billy Dearman, who's a director, Rob Grindering. He's the superintendent. That he's young. He's 27, 28 years old. These guys are great, man. I've been so fortunate, even at this level. Greg Willman, who got me started in this profession, at Panther Creek, and Andrew Redding. I can't forget about Andrew Redding. Andrew Redding was a big part of Southeast. He didn't play with the Stars. Did he play with the Stars? He might have played, for a little bit, maybe. He's probably going to shoot me for saying this, but no, Andrew Redding was a big part of Southeast. We can't forget him.
Yeah.
He's one of the guys who got me in this profession.
Mhm.
As far as getting into golf and doing this career late in my career. So, but yeah, I got to give a shout out to Andrew. I got to give him a shout out. He's a good man. Yeah, we're pretty close still. So, but can I tell you a little story? We have a second.
It's your time.
One of the most craziest things I've ever witnessed in a baseball game was we were at Stanford Olympia. I got to kind of tell this story because it was pretty wild, probably the most gruesome. We're playing at Stanford Olympia, out in the middle of nowhere. It's probably half hour from Bloomington. Good program, tight game. It's maybe 0-0, and the Thornton kid, he's really good. He's pitching, and the Smith kid, his dad was the coach, and they're good players. And it's like the fourth or fifth inning, and one of their players hits the in between ball between center and left, that no man's land. And all you can see is the play was developing, and all you can see is Henry Hurwitz and Andrew Redding. Travis is going out, and they both are diving, and they collide in midair.
Yeah, I know this.
Midair. Both of them knocked out.
Yeah, they got messed
up. Ball was laying there. Unbelievable to think about this at the time. Travis Seifert picked the ball up, threw the ball, cut off the relay to Brian Willey, threw the ball home and threw the guy out. He was going for the inside the park. threw the guy out, gone. And
Yeah.
then, but it was probably the worst thing I've ever seen on a baseball field.
It was
Just as
horrible,
far
wasn't
it
it? Blood
was
everywhere, and
awful, blood
yeah,
everywhere. I mean, Andrew ended up with over 150 stitches in his face.
oh my
Um,
God.
I think Henry had the teeth mark from
Yeah,
on his arm, and we didn't know at the time, but I believe he had a cracked vertebra, lower
yeah,
vertebra in his back. But he ended up sitting out later on.
yeah.
But pretty horrific situation, and I just go back to think about that, and it was just one of those stories where you'll never forget.
Right.
And those guys were, I mean, we got them, everything got under control. We got them to they came conscious, got them to the hospital, did their thing. We went to visit, and right after the game, I didn't ride the bus. I went with I forget who I went with, but we went straight to the hospital. And then, you know, those guys are troopers, because both those guys because I thought they were done for the season.
Yeah.
This is it. You guys, they're not going to. It's two seniors, they're done. But both those guys came back to. I think Henry came back later than Andrew came back. We had to get a face mask for him,
Wow.
because he couldn't get hit. But they ended up coming back and playing. So hats off to those guys for even thinking about,
Yeah.
trooping it and working themselves back and getting themselves back healthy. But that was
Absolutely.
that's the story I just kind of wanted to share.
I remember Henry telling us that story at Lincoln Land and
Mhm.
just getting the hairs raising up on my, just
Oh,
gruesome sounding, just horrifying.
yeah, it was
Jeez.
bad. It was bad,
Yeah.
So, but anyway, just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Well, Stashy, we're at the end of the line here. I've got one
Yep.
question for you, and
Okay.
then we'll take it out here. Do you ever have any baseball dreams?
Hmm. Baseball dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, you got it
I
all out of your system, buddy.
I think so. I don't
Yeah.
really. Like I said, more of my life right to this day is on the golf course.
Yeah.
And I don't think about baseball as much as I obviously used to, and I don't feel bad about it, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things about life, and like I said, I do miss baseball, and I think I'll get back into it,
Yeah.
and miss all the guys. I mean, been very fortunate to be around a lot of great people. Baseball took me places where I never would have thought I'd ever go.
Yeah.
The people, the time, the life was a wonderful, wonderful time. And the players, everybody that played for me or in the programs that I coached in,
Yeah.
was awesome. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't have done it any differently.
Oh man,
So
that's perfect.
yeah,
Um,
so
there are a few things that I forgot before I take us totally out of here.
mhm.
Both Seth and Mason Hale had some things they wanted to say.
Oh yeah.
I've got a quote here from Seth. I'm gonna read it to you.
Mhm.
I have a million baseball stories like everyone else, but I think the special thing about Stash for me is some of my earliest baseball memories involve him. Even when him and my aunt got divorced when I was in high school, he never stopped being my uncle. He was a great
Mhm.
voice to me and my dad. Um, he was a great voice to me when my dad and I were butting heads on the baseball field too.
Mhm.
Something I'm going through with my son now. He was always so intense, but it wasn't malicious, and it was always so well intended. One of the best people I've ever known, and of course, him switch hitting in BP after throwing us 10 buckets of balls and peppering every ball out of the park was incredible. So, some really high thoughts of
Yeah.
you there. And then
Yeah.
I've got Mason here. You ready for a little clip
Uh,
from Mason?
yeah.
Cool. Here we go.
Stashy for me has always just had a huge impact on my life. Growing up with him as my uncle, him and my dad were pretty much inseparable, both of them coaching at Southeast together. But then both me and Caden were both born when they were coaching at Springfield High. I got to grow up around Brett Trumper, Brad Owens, Coach Steinwert, all those guys is me, Joe Owens, Johnny Steinwert, Caden Stash. We're all, 5 weeks apart from each other. And then Coach Trumper, Austin's a year younger than us. So all of us always kind of grew up together, playing with each other, playing against each other. So those guys all just had a huge impact on me. But personally, Stash, uh, he was the best for me. With him coaching at Southeast and my dad being his assistant, me and Caden were always at the field together. Every day that they had practice, me and Caden were there. Anytime that they had a game, me and Caden were there. And we were always just a part of the team. They always just let us practice with them. They always just let us do what we wanted to do. I remember all the time me and Caden would be like, throw us a diver, throw us a diver. You know, we'd be taking ground balls and we'd always want to dive for the ball. And Jamie and my dad would be like, just make the routine play first, why don't you? That diving stuff's going to come. So those guys just had an impact on me. And then, you know, growing up at Stash's house all the time, it was baseball, baseball, baseball. And we'd always just have so much fun when we were probably in seventh or eighth grade. You know, Jamie lived out on Circle Drive out by the lake and they had a huge backyard. And I remember when they moved into that house, he told me and Caden he was going to build us a wiffle ball field. And, you know, typically, you know, kids don't play wiffle ball like they used to, but that's all we ever did is if something was going on, we were outside, we were playing wiffle ball, you know, we were playing basketball, we were doing something like that. And so Stash built us a wiffle ball field. So when he built that wiffle ball field, he did not, um, he put every detail into place. We had foul poles, we had a scoreboard, we had turf batters boxes, and we'd just spend hours upon hours out there all the time. I remember one day we were out there, it was all of us again, Johnny, Austin, me, Caden. Coach T was out there for a while. I remember we probably played for 5 or 6 hours, and you know, Jamie never once told us we needed to come inside. You know, whatever we needed, he took care of us. And I was looking at a text the other day between me and Jamie is my last game of my college career when I was playing at McKendree. My dad wrote me a letter the night before, and he gave me a letter the night before. And before I went to bed that night, I was reading it, thinking about my career and everything that I've been through. And my dad listed out a bunch of memories when we were at Southeast, all that, when we were playing baseball and stuff. And it always seemed like Jamie was involved in every story. So I sent Jamie a text that night, just thanking him for everything he had and the impact on my baseball career. And he sent me a text back, and it was pretty much thanking me of the impact I had on him. And so, you know, Jamie always just took care of me no matter what. And I love that guy to death. We went out and saw him last year in South Carolina, and we're probably going to make that an annual trip, go out, play some golf with him. And even nights like that, we just hung out all night. We laughed until we couldn't laugh anymore and just told old stories. And he just always has had such a great impact on my life.
What a great clip, man.
Yeah, it was a great clip, man. Yeah, big part of the family. You know, we were family.
Yeah.
You know, they
Right.
were, you know, Seth and Mason and Mark. You know, and obviously, yeah, Mark was my assistant for a few, and he was a really good one. He kept me under control. He had to a few times. But especially if I could tell, I don't know, we have just a little bit of time.
Oh.
But there's a good story about Coach Hale. We were over, I believe, man, it was at Maroa Forsyth, I believe. I think it might have been Jesse Benedict in that group that year, Ricky Weiss and all those guys. And man, Maroa Forsyth program was really good. And we are just getting pummeled. Guys are playing bad. I think we're down, I don't know, 9-1. 10-1, getting ready to get 10 run. And I am furious. I mean, just absolutely furious. And I just, you know what? I said, Hale, I said, you got him. I just sat on the bench and said, you got him. You take him. I can't do this anymore. I really quitting. I just you got him. I had to step away. He goes over and starts coaching third base. And I'm not kidding you. Next thing you know what, it's like the fourth, you know, getting ready to get 10 run. It's like 9-4, 9-5, 10-5, 10-7. And the guys they see this. And our guys they're playing now. You know, I'm just sitting on the bench. I'm sitting there back. And we got to the point where we were almost, I think it might have been like 10-9. And I was kind of getting excited too on the bench. You know, I kind of come out of my little funk a little bit as a coach, you know, and I'll never forget this. And Hale comes, you know, I'm getting up and kind of getting excited. He comes over, he looks at me, he goes, sit down. You're not in the game. You sit down. I'm like, you got it. Because he's got it. So he basically he took him. Yeah. And guess what? We won the game, like 15-14. Ended up winning the game. And it was great. It was really cool, you know, to see that happening. Because I was just being a baby. I was a baby. I had those moments, and I was done. And so it was a cool story. So compliments and hats off to Haley. We had a lot of great memories, especially being family. And Mason, what a career he had. I mean, a long career, great kid. Always, him and Caden were always. We always played. I mean, they were just grew up together and played everything. The wiffle ball field in the backyard was a really cool, special time and thing for not just those kids, but we bring. I'd had my freshman parties. I coached the freshmen for a couple years, way later on, right before. It was probably a year before they got second in the state. With all aldermen and some of the what was the big tall pitcher that was really good for Springfield High that year. They got second in the state.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, but those kids, we play wiffle ball for our party. We come over and have the party and play wiffle ball and have fun. And so that wiffle ball field was a pretty cool and special to those guys. And Seth, Seth growing up, he from a young kid. I mean, love those kids, man. I still do. I mean, they're my boys. We're kind of at distance now in life, and Seth's got kids, and Mason is still doing his thing, coaching and involved with baseball, which he's got a great baseball mind. He was a good, very good player. He got a great baseball mind. I'm just really happy for him. Yeah, I love that family. That family, we had a lot of special moments together. It was really cool. So, hats off to those guys. I appreciate them. Really
hats
appreciate
off to the Hale family.
So, yeah, hats off. Yes.
Well, Stashy, we're at the end of the line here, my friend.
Okay, man.
How's this been for you?
Oh man, this has been great. I know a lot of things have come back to fruition a little bit here, and I know I've probably rambled on a lot of different things.
No, it's been incredible. You were amazing.
I just can't thank everybody, that you talk to, for doing what you're doing with these podcasts is phenomenal. It's a very cool, deal, and I'm glad you're doing it. I'm glad you're doing it for the community of Springfield. You're getting some people out there that probably, they know, but not very many people probably knew much about. They knew them, but they just didn't know all the inside.
These are all journeys that are worth remembering.
So
absolutely.
And I really appreciate you doing this and taking the time and having me on. I mean, I'm not a Springfield native, but I was a Springfield native for several years and came to the community and had a wonderful time there. And obviously we've moved on, and my wife and I are doing well down here. And like I said, I can't ask for anything more. And I love this. This was fun. I've enjoyed it. The guys that spoke and the people that you got to talk about were those guys they're really awesome people, and I've really enjoyed listening to what they've had to say about me, and thank you. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to do this.
It's been an absolute pleasure for me. Thank you to all those guys that participated and wanted to chime in. It speaks volumes to the person that you are, to the impact you've had on people, to the impact you've had on the whole baseball community. I really think you are the Bagger Vance of baseball of Springfield. You came in and kind of this magical, stashy guy and taught a bunch of high level stuff, and then you're gone. And but it was so fun going back and hearing how you saw things, how you looked at the game, both as a player and as a coach. Heartwarming hearing how many people you touched. It cannot be overstated how much time you poured into people, and myself included. And it might have been a little clunky at the start of this podcast when I was trying to give you some gratitude, but man, you were such an important person to me. There's a handful of people, men in my life, that were really, really important to me. My dad, Tim Wallen, the Knadler brothers, Ryan O'Malley, Ron Riggle, a guy named Chad Marshak, and you're one of them, man. And I would not be the man that I am today without my time spent with you. And I mean that. And I hold you in such high regard, man. I love you to death. I want nothing but the best for you. I'm so happy that life has treated you well. And while you may not be in the game right now, you're doing well down there. And I like I said, I love you to death, man. And I'm so happy that we got to do this. And Thank you for giving me your time. This is an absolute blessing. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. I appreciate it. I really do. Those were, oh man, just phenomenal, phenomenal feelings and thoughts, and very special. You're a very special person. I just got one more thing to say before I get out of here. I got to give a shout out. These are my lovely children. You know,
Please.
McAllister and Caden. They trooped it all. They trooped it through, you know, the life and the baseball life, and they're doing good things. And my daughter's down here, McAllister, she's down here, and Caden's still up in Springfield. But I love them to death. You know, they're my kids, and they were a big part of all you guys, and you know, in this, you know, this whole thing, you know, and along the journey. So I just want to give a shout out to them for sure.
Shout out to them. I can remember back in the day, McAllister, there was an article on her in the paper. It was like she was doing some acting or something like that. You remember that? It was like in The Voice.
Yeah, she sang the national anthem. She was singing the national anthem at age 4. It was really, she was really young.
Yeah.
And she did it at City.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
And then she did it at Springfield High.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe it was both those back when she was really young.
Yeah.
You know, she doesn't do a whole lot of singing anymore. She's but I think she can still sing.
It's okay.
You know, but right. She's doing well. Yeah, they're doing well.
Stashy.
So
this has been incredible, man. I have just enjoyed this so thoroughly. You got anything else for us, or take it out?
You know, I don't. I think I have to be up at the crack of dawn here. So
sorry I kept you up so late, but we had to get this baseball out of you.
Absolutely, had to get it out of me a little bit. I thank you for
brother,
helping me relive a lot of great moments. So.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything you've done in my life. This is the Post Game Spread. This is Jaime Stash. I'm Blake Helm. We're out of here. Thank you, guys. See you, buddy.
See you.